Hi, welcome all. Today we are going to deal the poem I Am Not That Woman, written by Kishwar Naheed, that comes in the gentle reading, that particular text. You know that Kishwar Naheed is an outstanding writer of Pakistan. He holds an MA degree in economics from Punjab University, Lahore. She's a prolific writer, and 12 volumes of poetry were published from Pakistan and India. Her Urdu poetry has also been published in foreign countries. She has also written 8 books for children and has won the prestigious UNESCO Award for Children's Literature. Her love for children is as much as a concern for women. She expresses this concern in her poems. Or for example, you can say in Azin Berian Vi Loco, which is a touching focus on the plight of women in the present male-dominated society. Kishwar Naheed is one of the best-known feminist poets of Pakistan, born in Bulandshahr, Uttar Pradesh in India in 1940. Her family moved to Lahore in Pakistan during the 1947 partition of the subcontinent. Kishwar had to fight a lot to receive an education at a time when women did not go to school. She studied at home and obtained a high school diploma through correspondence courses, but went on to receive a master's degree in economics from Punjab University. Her first collection of poetry, Lab-e-Goya, published in 1968, won the prestigious Adamji Prize for Literature. Kishwar also writes for children and for the Daily Young, a newspaper in Pakistan. Her poetry has been translated into English and Spanish, and her famous poem, We Sinful Women, gave its title to a groundbreaking anthology of contemporary Urdu feminist poetry translated and edited by Rukhsana Ahmed, published in London by the Women's Press in 1991. You see that Kishwar Naheed was the Director General of Pakistan National Council of the Arts before her retirement. She edited a prestigious literary magazine called Mo-e-No, and she founded an organization named Hava, meaning Eve, whose goal is to help women without an independent income become financially independent through cottage industries and selling handicraft. Kishwar Naheed, you can see that is one of the greatest Urdu poets of the 20th century and perhaps Pakistan's greatest living poet. She will turn 80 in 2020, and this year celebrates the 50th anniversary of the publication of her iconic ghazal collection called Speaking Lips. And over her journey, the long journey as a poet and feminist, she has contributed many iconic poems which have centered the feminist history of Pakistan. The First White Hair, The Stiff 2 Miles, We Sinful Women, and Who Am I are some of the best examples of this writing. Her iconic autobiography, The Story of a Bad Woman, is not just a biography of a poet, but the story of a whole generation. Her latest collection of poetry, Away from Sweet Talk, contains many poems which especially relate to the plight of the contemporary Pakistani women or any woman for that particular matter. And now let's come to the poem I'm Not That Woman, written by Kishwar Naheed. I'm Not That Woman is a poem written by Kishwar Naheed, an Indian-born poet who migrated to Pakistan. This poem shows the stereotyping of women in a patriarchal society. The phrase "that woman" in the title of the poem mocks at the general conception of women in male chauvinistic society. And also, the author opposes the control of men over women. She says that her reputation is not limited to selling socks and shoes, that is, as half-naked model on the poster. So the poem begins something like that. You can read like this. I'm Not That Woman selling you socks and shoes. Remember me, I'm the one you hid. I'm the one you hid in your walls of stone while you rode, free as breeze, not knowing that my voice cannot be smothered by stones. So you can just find the how she compares the condition of the male and the female. One is really like loose in the world, like the breeze, which can go anywhere. But at the same time, you see that the female is constrained to be locked up within the four walls of the domestic life. And this kind of the comparison in a society, how the male and the female contrasted in the case of the relative freedom they enjoy, the kind of journey that the male undertakes freely, and how women are always being just confined to the domestic affairs, and she's not expected to be out by the male chauvinistic society. She says that, the speaker tries to explain how the women are discriminated by men in all spheres of life. She complains that the man tries to conceal her identity in the walls of stone while she wanders around free as a breeze. But she says that her voice cannot be smothered or stifled by stone walls. So just like we discussed earlier, Maya Angelou's poem, Still I Rise, that kind of the determination, that kind of that willpower not to be confined in a frame made by the male world, that you can also find very much strongly been expressed in Kishwar Naheed's poem too. So that kind of desire to break all the chains made by the male world and to get free into this world, to fly up and up just like the male. That desire to get away from the chains made by the male world, you can just find well expressed in the poem. And also there is a warning that don't think that my voice could be smothered by stones. You cannot restrict me by the stone walls around me, but it's capable of just breaking it and getting into the world. So that kind of the realization of the strength of the female is expressed in the very stanza she wrote. And of course, then she says, I'm the one you crushed with the weight of the custom and tradition, not knowing that light cannot be hidden in darkness. Remember me, and the one in whose lap you picked flowers and planted thorns and tempers, not knowing that chains cannot smother my fragrance. So it exemplifies the stereotyping of women in a patriarchal society I told earlier, And as she is limited to the domestic domain as the household female, she reiterates that her reputation is not limited to selling socks and shoes, for she too possesses intellect. She is not merely a puppet in the hands of the male-dominated society or the patriarchal society, which advertises all kinds of things by using women. And we can just find so many such advertisements and all in the newspapers, in the media. Sometimes the half-naked women just having the shoes and socks on the hands as an advertising agent, something campaigned by the female, the signs and icons of the male world. So I'm not that woman. So she's always making a correction, the woman of the male concern and the woman of her concern. So you can just find the two types of the female, one that is traditionally trained and really been tamed by the male society, but the other one is so powerful, not ready to confine to the four walls just made by the male, and always having that kind of enthusiasm to break this and to make a new history, that history that celebrates the freedom of the female. So this, ardent feeling, you can just find the effervescence of that particular ardent desire to get out of the cage, that you can just well experience when she talks in this poetry. And of course, we know that she's rather the woman who has been crushed by the rigid constraints of custom and irrational barriers of tradition imposed by the male world. Nevertheless, she's of the opinion that light cannot be hidden in darkness and manifest itself. A woman is the epitome of light, or in another sense you can say that knowledge. As the saying goes, if a man is educated, an individual is educated, but if a woman is educated, the whole family is educated. Usually we just make that kind of the statements in order to highlight the potential of the women in making such a greater, education in the society. She is the lap that ensures security, caring and sharing. The man takes flowers from her to leave her thorns, taking flowers and leaving thorns, and empowers, rendering life a horrid experience for her. The idea of empowers implies how she endures hell right on earth. However, man is ignorant to be the fact that nobody can just make her under chain. The potential of the women that the male is not capable of understanding. And of course you can say that man is ignorant of the fact that chains cannot smother her fragrance, as it is beyond worldly confinement. Tangible objects cannot deteriorate her intangible worth. So this is what she's trying to make out. And again she says that I am the woman whom he brought and sold in the name of my own chastity, not knowing that I can walk on water when I am drowning. So she states that she was a woman who was a slave. She's the one who was commercialized. She was praised in ideals, but practically she had no merit. She was a victim of reification, as Virginia Woolf asserts in A Room of One's Own. Imaginatively, she is of the highest importance. Practically, she is completely insignificant. She pervades poetry from cover to cover. She's all but absent from history. It's a beautiful comment made by Virginia Woolf, and this is the same that happens to all the women in the world, where the power is just celebrated and enjoyed by the male ethos. So, a price was set even on her chastity. When attempts were made to drown her, the people in question underestimated her powers, as she could even walk on water. The poetess refers to the practice. That is, you see that the women were deemed to be burden in societies, especially in families, and sometimes they're really been just considered as commodities, mere commodities to be sold and bought, not having any particular identity of their own. They are just having the identity, the power, and all kinds of such potential, the intellect and the brilliance, everything. But the male world is always underestimating everything, and she's really being just looked upon, sometimes as a body, sometimes as a commodity to be sold from families, bought by the families, and she's not having any word of her own. This is what the traditional condition as, or we can say that existed in society, and against this stale notions of the female identity that writers like Maya Angelou and you see Kishwar, Naheed, everybody so strongly just fighting, and the lines you can just find that which are just pulsating with that energy, the strength of that particular ideas, you can just find that reverberating in each and every line in this poem. And I'm the one you married off to get rid of the burden, and not knowing that a nation of captive minds cannot be free. And this is most interesting, and you can say that her chastity is not regarded, her motherhood is not respected, and her loyalty is not reciprocated, and it is now high time for her to blossom free, and realizing herself, to let her fragrance emanate, permeating others' life with meaning. She reports now triumphantly that she is not that woman. That woman in the sense that the woman defined and explained by the traditional male-dominated world. I'm not that woman. Don't try to enlist me in that particular group. I can't just come there and just obey as a puppet before your demands and your caressing and your dictation. So the poem is getting to its power, and the woman on the poster, half naked, selling socks and shoes. No, I'm not that woman. Every time she's repeating. The woman of that particular male world that is represented by the woman in the poster. So always you can just find a constant comparison of that woman with the woman that she's trying to put forward. So this, contrast is really something that makes the poem more strong. The one defined by the male world and the one defined by the female herself. So a wider discrepancy you can just find in the ideals of the two categories, and you can say the speaker is trying to highlight that the women have been crushed by the customs and traditions for generations. She says that nothing can just block this cascade, this avalanche, this strength of the female. And the climax of the poem you can just find when it is coming to the end, that I am the commodity you traded in, my chastity, my motherhood, my loyalty. Now it is time for me to flower free. The woman on that poster, half naked, selling socks and shoes. No, no, I am not that woman. Assertion is really just made. Emphasis is really just made on these lines, and the non-conformity with the male ethos that is repeatedly asserted in these lines by Kishwar Naheed. And one more thing we have to understand, that when we can say that a nation is free, Naheed is of the view that one cannot say that a nation is free if the women of that particular country are put in this kind of the prison houses. Only when these prison houses are broken and they're really been just loose to fly and blossom according to their own whims and fancies, then only you can say that the country is free. If a country is confining the women under, the so-called system, control, that nation cannot be said as free and celebrating freedom. So this idea of the essential freedom that a nation should celebrate, that should be with the liberation of the women. This idea is communicated throughout the poem, and of course this is something very strong, and just like my Angelo's poem, it is underlying the tremendous power and capabilities of the women, and don't underestimate the power. Male ethos cannot really just put them always in this kind of the prison houses. They will rewrite history, they will make history, and they will just come out of the prison houses with the liberation. And this idea you can just find well expressed by the poet in this short poem. And though it's short, its strength and power, that is something tremendous. And you can say that the poet refers to how women's life is ruined with the dowry system. Due to this, it becomes a liability of her parents. The parents regarded themselves as free after letting them off, and only when the family is also rewriting the concepts, the outlook, and only by understanding the power and the individuality of the female, then only the domestic life will also get somewhat better. So the household, the society, the nation, everything together should just understand that female, just like the male, the female is also having her own identity. She is the resource of all capabilities, and don't try to look at her as a commodity, and don't try to look at her as a burden to be let off by the matrimonial understandings. And in all sense we can say that Kishwar Naheed is trying her best to establish the identity of the female against all kinds of discrimination, against all kinds of the notions educated by the patriarchy. And I'm sure that this poem too, just like Maya Angelou's work, will just inspire you and will make you think to get out of the confinement and the prison houses made all around by this male chauvinistic world. And if you say that you understood the poem, the meaning is that you understood something about your own confinement in this world. This is what the poem tries to elaborate. That's what I think. And it's open to all kinds of criticism. It's open to all kinds of your questionings, and from different angles, as I told you earlier. The students are just having the freedom to look at it from their own ideological point of view, from their own perspectives, and you can intersect into every sphere of the poem and just come out with more and more meaning, and that will be a better experience of understanding a poem. And thank you very much for listening me all the time. And if you want to clarify something, if you want to ask me something more, I'll be available on the time specified by the coordinator, Biju sir, and let's meet together on that particular occasion. And thank you very much for listening me. Thank you.